Hello, and welcome to the Ohio Health at Buenos Hospital training for Paragon 14.0.1 upgrade. The first thing you want to do is open up Internet Explorer. You want to go to the web bar and type in the address given to you before we go live on June 20th to access the Paragon environment. When you type in the web address, you will then receive a username and password screen. If you were a previous Paragon user, this ID and password will be the exact same that you were given before. If you're new, that password and ID will be provided to you. Once you are on the Citrix storefront screen, you type in your ID and password and select Log On. The main application you're concerned with is Paragon Clinician Hub. Remember, whenever you are in Citrix environment, that you have to single click on everything. If you do not see Paragon Clinician Hub on the forefront, go to the McKesson folder, select Paragon, and select Clinician Hub from the screen. Once opening Clinician Hub, the new web station for physicians, essentially, the following screen appears. You will again log in with your same ID and password to the environment. If you are familiar with WebStation from previous versions, what you will find in this video is that most of the behind the scenes stays the same. However, finding a patient and looking at a patient in a snapshot all change. When you log into WebStation for physicians, previously it defaulted to the Census tab. Paragon Clinician Hub is the exact same and it defaults to the Census tab. But you will realize the filters that once went across the top of WebStation now run down the side. This video is primarily for medical students, Central Ohio Health Associates, and physician office staff that will utilize this application to look for documentation and medical records primarily. If you are a medical student or you are a Central Ohio Health Associate, you will have open access to patients. This makes searching much easier. If you are a physician office staff employee, searching for patients, as you know previously, if you did not have a relationship to the patient or your physician did not have a relationship, you could not find the patient. That process is the same. If for some reason you search for a patient in the system and you cannot find them, then that means your physicians do not have a relationship directly to the patient, and you will need to contact medical records to make that happen so you can see them in Paragon Clinician Hub. When using these filters on the side, basically it's self-explanatory as you go down through. You start at the top and you work your way down in the hierarchy. As a facility, you would want to leave it on Ohio Health at Buenos Hospital. Care teams you would not address if you're one of these associates. Groups, if you are an office staff member, you will see your groups show up here. You would want to make sure that you check your group. And then problems, sex, race, age, patient type, you can search by all of those things, but remember, the more specific filter settings that you have, the more chances you increase of not finding your patient. The best thing to do to actually find a patient is come up to this patient search box in the top right, type the patient's name with the last name first, and you will see the options pop up in this drop down. Test Melissa here. You want to make sure that the name and date of birth shows up, and you also want to verify their medical record number if you happen to know that, but traditionally name and date of birth is okay. Once you know that this is the patient you want, you click on the patient. The patient will show up in your census list. You then select Melissa to launch into her chart. Now you will see this screen looks completely different than WebStation for Physicians. Basically, this is the patient in focus now. We have the patient here, and this is all the information pertaining to the patient. As you will see, all the patient information shows up here on the left. This, if you remember in WebStation, or even if you're new to Clinician Hub, will give you all the information specifically about this patient, including admitting diagnosis, allergies, alerts, external documents, insurance and contact information. It will also tell you who the attending physician is, admission date, and all the information that you would need. On this side of the chart, you have 4 different flow sheets that show up to kind of give you the snapshot of a patient. You have your I's and O's, your vitals, your results, and medications. If at any point in time you want to see more information pertaining to these 4 fields, then you simply click which field you would like. There's a little arrow box at the top right, and that will launch you into the flow sheet for that particular item. This would allow you to see more information for the patient. Primarily for Central Ohio Health Associates and for office staff, you're concerned about labs, x-rays, imaging studies, and physician documentation. If you look across the top here, these are some of the tabs that you're familiar with from WebStation for Physicians, and these function the same once you click on them. If you wish to view documentation for a patient, simply click on Documentation, and that will launch you into the documentation module that you should be familiar with. All you have to do to view the documents is simply click on the document. It will open up and you can view it. As an office staff person, you should be able to print it and have it available for your physician. What is different than WebStation when it comes to results is now results will show up under the flow sheets and under the result tab flow sheet. This particular patient has no data, but if they did, you would see all their lab values populate here and you would be able to navigate through the flow sheet. The easiest way for office staff and for Central Ohio Health Associates to find everything in one place is to go to the patient's medical record. Previously in WebStation for Physicians, this tab was located on the top and it was called Medical Record tab. Now, you must have your patient in focus and you must select this More drop down and select Medical Record to go into this patient's chart. What you will find when this launches is that this is the exact same setup as it was in previous WebStation for Physicians. You will see that this screen looks the same as it did in WebStation. What I will find is if you are looking by filters, traditionally if you've never been in Medical Records tab, it defaults to Encounter Number. The best thing to do is to change it to Document Type to search for the types of document that you're looking for. This is where you would find EKGs, echo reports, any type of testing. Physician documentation also comes in here, so you will see all those types of options. The reason we don't see anything for this patient right now is because I'm in the test environment, and for HIPAA reasons I do not want to display a patient's information. When you click on one of the documents in here, the document will populate on the right. You can then view, and you can zoom in and zoom out by using your magnifying glass to zoom in on the image, and then also depending on your security and your rights, the majority of you will have the ability to print so that your physicians have that information at hand. And that concludes the tutorial on the basics of Paragon Clinician Hub for medical students, Central Ohio Health Associates, and physician office staff. If you are a medical student, please continue in the series and watch the med student documentation video. Thank you.